Hello, welcome to this short tutorial. Um, Again, another Second Life stroke Blender physics um, tutorial. So we're going to go through, I'm going to do an absolutely ridiculously complicated physics model, but this is a little bit more complicated than the first video, which was just literally how to do physics to go through a doorway. So this model here is just over 1,000 faces, or it'll end up being 2.1 thousand triangles. So it's the result of a cloth simulation over a cube with a rounded top on it, right? So something like a table, and the tries are actually quite high on this. So I'm going to switch in and out of Second Life to show. I've got like 5 examples of the rights and wrong ways and the differences between the physics and non-physics of this, exporting this out as a Collada file and then importing it into Second Life, right? And I will try to go through each step. So this is a low poly version of the real version, which I created. The high poly, which is 32,000, 32 and over 32,500, and this is just the cloth, right? So I've converted it down into something that's a little bit more reasonable for Second Life. Okay, it's still not hugely complex, but it is fairly complex. I mean, if we look at the faces and such like, so those little needle-like things sticking out of it are the face direction. But it's kind of basic, but it's also your average kind of mesh, nice piece of mesh that you'd like to upload to Second Life, right? So um, I'm just going to go through in Second Life. So just very quickly, I'll show you a model that I am working on at the moment for Second Life. Now this is going to be a high land impact. Okay, this is the maximum size that you can bring into Second Life, which is from end to end 64 meters, right? And it's fairly complex. It's going to have a lot of physics on there. There's basically a lot of mesh, a lot of tries, and if we look inside, it's got different floor. It's got 2 different floors. Yeah. Um, so yeah, this particular floor is on the bottom, but it's like a bilge area, right? I don't know quite why. I think it looks good with portholes. So yeah, this is quite high. I literally just brought this in um, to Second Life. I just see what it's like, but in its current state, with no physics at all, you can see that it's got a land impact of 431. Um, let me see if I can figure out where are. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. That's interesting. Interesting. No, I was just trying to find the stats on this. I don't know where they would be. That's interesting. Hmm. Okay. But anyway, it's going to be very it's going to be a sort of an in-world um role play. So, it's going to be very high land impact anyway, but I know in its current state without physics, you can see all the blue bits, right? They're the you can switch that on and off. You can see that, Second Life's own physics is you can't use it. So if we turn it into convex hull, yeah, not getting much difference. Okay. Anyway, that's going to be another video coming up. So anyway, these are my 5 examples, right? So I'm just going to run quite briefly through this. So starting from the left, we've got second life physics and converted to prim. The, the land impact is 5, right? But if you look at the physics, if you open this up and then switch on the physics view, it's a mess, right? It's kind of second life's own way of trying to allocate or trying to figure out from the convex hull part of this model what the physics should be. Okay, and it's given us a land impact of 5. Okay, if we move to the next one, this is custom physics, but the physics parts are unjoined. Okay, and I'm gonna run through this, and it's converted obviously to prim, and the land impact is actually 3. So that's actually really quite good. It's certainly a lot better, and we've saved approximately 40% of the land impact. I mean, this is not overly high compared to this one. So this again is custom physics, but the custom physics are badly done. And this is, I think, is where a lot of people get things wrong, because they think, oh, well, I should do the physics X, Y, and Z. And I've seen all sorts of really horrible things that horrible as in bad ways of doing physics, and then uploading it and leaving it like that. Do you know what I mean? So, this is kind of physics that just hasn't been really done right. And you get the land impact is just crazy. But if you switch to convex hull, the land impact goes down to 1, right? Because the convex hull, I mean, you can see what happens when you convert it, right? The physics sticks out all over the place. And I'm kind of guessing that that's where an awful lot of the land impact comes from, because it's trying to calculate out the perimeter of the and the sort of the rough dimensions of the object that you're trying to upload and give physics. Okay, but because it's convex hull, okay, I'll try and explain what the differences are between prim and convex hull, but I'm sure there's a much more technical reason, for the differences. I understand the concept of convex hull, but I don't understand its impact on physics when you convert it to prim. Okay, I think what tends to happen is that the item, I know it looks like when you switch it back to prim, it then says 1, but it isn't, because when you duplicate this, right? And this again is where people go wrong. They go, "Oh yeah, I've got a land impact of 1," until they start bringing it in world again, or they duplicate it, and of course then it goes horribly wrong. But you can kind of see what's happening there. And then this one also switches back to 20 again. So, you have to be really careful. And I know I've mentioned this before. So the next one along is custom physics done right with a land impact of 1, right? And it's a land impact of 1 in prim mode, right? So, and then you kind of look at that and you think, well, that almost looks the same as that one, what the difference is. But I'm going to show you in Blender. So that's really how people are getting high detailed items into Second Life with only a land impact of 1. Now I've seen some seriously heavy duty, mesh, right? And you think, well, how on earth are they getting that to 1, 1 land impact? And this is kind of how they're doing it, right? And then you've got Second Life's physics, which of the land impact of 1, but you can't convert this to prim, right? Because very often this is what happens when you literally upload the um, when you literally upload the, I mean, it has got physics, but it's wrong. It's kind of wrong physics, and it can't convert it to prim. So it just stays as convex hull, right? And this is typically, and now you might, I mean, realistically, this will work, right? This will work in Second Life, and it's, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that from what I understand, if you wanted to, you can't, I don't think you can link convex hull to anything. I think that's partly one of the reasons, because the servers are managing the LOD and the land impact of this particular physical mesh in a slightly different way. Whereas with Prim, you can kind of build with it, as in you can link it together with things. Um, I I'm not so sure. I could be wrong, but I'm not so sure um, that is accurate. But anyway, either way, depending on what you want to do with this, you only got a land impact of 1. I I think if I sit on there, no, I don't have anywhere to sit. Can I sit on there? No, I haven't got anywhere to sit either. But I can sit on this one, albeit in a rather odd fashion, because I'm kind of sitting right on the edge of the physics. I don't know whether I can sit there. No, I can't, but I know I can sit on the very first one, right? As it is, I can sit on the first one. Of course, if you make something like a boat or a couch or whatever, you can put a script in that makes and this is how an awful lot of people get around this problem when they're creating physics of 1. They're sticking a script in there that actually positions you to make it look like you are sitting on a couch or you're sitting on a stool, right? I mean, there's all sorts of tricks and things, but the key thing is that you're um, how do I stand up again? There's normally something down here that says I could stand up, but okay, so I just highlight myself. So yeah, typically there's all sorts of tips and tricks you can use with scripting to make things low land impact, and then you can use it, you can sit on it. If it's just an item that's sitting in a corner somewhere, you could probably just get away with using convex hull if you didn't really want to um, if you didn't want to make it physical, a physical object. The beauty with this, of course, is that if it's done right, even though I'll literally show you it's only one face, I still can't walk. Oh, I can walk through it. Okay. Oh, I know why I can walk through it, because I've got the face around the wrong way. That's fine. I can walk through that one as well. But of course, the other ones, the higher land impact ones, I can't walk through that, obviously, because the physics are so high, and the physics are kind of a mess on that one as well. And this, you have to take into consideration what you want to do with the object. If it's a house, right, where you don't want people walking through the walls because it's just going to look bad, you're going to have to make physics that go all the way around the 4 walls and around the doors and such like, and holes in floors where there's stairs and things. And of course, you can't get round that problem. And of course, this one's got so much physics in it, you're gonna go you're gonna go over it. But we know why it's a high land impact, because the physics is kind of um, Second Life's own, generation. But if this was an object that you didn't want people to walk around, you're gonna have to increase the land impact to an extent, um, in order to stop people from walking through something, right? So, you'd have to kind of put the physics around this object so that I couldn't walk through it. You know, it just all depends what you're using it for. So anyway, if I go into Blender, and I'll try and very briefly um, explain, right? So this is the mesh that I'm bringing in, right? What I usually do is on an item like this, if it's a house or a ship or something that's got walls or whole, doorways through it and things like that. So you physics that are kind of, I guess, what you could call flat, right? That's I've done a video on that already, and that's pretty straightforward. When you've got an item like this, which has got a quite high try count of over 2,000, for instance, it's a nice animated it was an animation cloth in order to get this kind of nice texture and everything on there. You have to think differently about what it's going to be used for. You're looking at beds, you're looking at furniture, you're looking at tables with cloths on, you're looking at there's quite a number of things, and you have to think about, do you really need collision physics that you want to stop people walking through it, or do you just want, you can use the trickery of physics to try and lower the land impact, right? So I've built boats, small boats and vehicles before where I wanted really low, land impact. I didn't really care too much that people could walk through something, I mean, you typically people would just like sit on it, and then when they want to stand up, you're going to use a script to get them to actually just move. And realistically, most people don't even know that the things hasn't, not really got that much physics in it. So how do I do it? I highlight my model, I create a duplicate exactly of the model, right? And I take any materials and stuff like off. So I've got literally the bare bones mesh, right? So this is what the mesh looks like, you know, without anything on there. Now, typically, if you want collision physics, as in you don't want somebody to walk through something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this model to create my physics, okay? Because it's got wavy lines and it's got a tablecloth over it and all of those other things. I mean, I could just draw a box, a cube around the original physics, and hey presto, you're done. But the land impact can be a bit odd, right? It can either be one or it could be three, right? You have to make a judgment call, what you want to do. But if I'm going to do the physics for this, there's kind of a couple of things I would do, right? You want to try and select the extremities of your object, right? Because the physics is all about the perimeter, the very top, right? So you're going to select one piece on the top, you're going to select one piece on the bottom, and then the perimeter of the project. So something that's typically as vertical as you can get it, but to the absolute edge. So actually that's probably the edge of that particular part, but then it isn't, because I'm going to select like a piece of mesh on each corner, right? It's as near as it's going to get. Okay, so I know that that's the extremities. I've now got the bottom. I've now got the perimeter on the outside, and I've now got the very top. Okay, so I'm shift clicking on all of those. Yeah. The other key thing, and well, actually, okay, so let's just go through the process, okay? So what I would now actually do is I would invert that selection, which says Control I, and then delete all the faces. Let me just save this before I do that case, okay? So I'm going to go Shift I, and then delete all the other faces because I don't really need them. Now, this is what you would kind of get as your ideal physics, right? So you've got the very bottom, the very top, and you know, each of the sides. Sometimes you can get away with just the top, the very top, the very bottom, and one of the extremities. But because this is a cloth, you kind of, it's difficult to almost see which one is. I guess I could pick that one. You see, that would be the most extremities, and then you'd just let Second Life work out where the rest of it is. This just kind of helps it out, really. The other key thing is I mentioned in here about unjoined. Okay, unjoined physics. So you're bringing your item into Second Life, your physical item, and then your physics or collision bit. If it's unjoined, it has an impact on the land impact because it's dealing with two separate things, if that makes sense. So the ideal thing is that you would actually join your physics model mesh together, okay, and it's got to be kind of in the same place as your original physics, right? So you can kind of see where that is, the orange highlighted bits. Okay, so that's where the physics is of my mesh. Okay, you would then save that as a collada file. And again, we're if you remember from the previous video, we're having the name of the item that we've just exported, which is the real item, and then we're just underlining at the end. We put an underline and phys, PHYS at the end, and we're just saying selection only, and we're exporting that out. And of course, then when we import it into Second Life, it automatically picks up the physics, and hey presto, where you go. Another little trick that I've learned over the years is when you actually go to upload your mesh model, and we this is what I'm talking about here, the simple cloth. Now, what I've just done will be, it could be this one, although I've made it even simpler to get the one land impact. So if I was to bring this in right now, let me just bring this in right now. Okay, we can see where the physics are. So it's automatically picked up the physics, and you can see the blue highlight bit where the physics is. Okay. One of the tips I've always learned is on such small items that you don't need to look at far away, always make the bottom two, the low and the lowest, 0. Okay, this also has an impact on the land impact. Okay, is your LOD, your level of detail. Right, so that this makes a difference, and if I calculate that out now, that's going to give me a land impact of 1.45, which is actually really quite good. I think the if I just literally upload that and show you what that looks like when it comes in, I just called it cube. Right, so if we look at this now, we've got a land impact of 1 when it's a convex hull. When we change it to prim, this is where things can go a little bit. You think, okay, that's a land impact of 1. Click away and re-edit it again, and you think, ooh, now it is possible that this will stay as a land impact of 1, but you duplicate it and things could change, and we're lucky in this instance, right? So in a way, this does come under the custom physics done right, because that's normally how I would do it, right? Always duplicate what you bring into Second Life, because it will really then, it's almost like Second Life's recalculating the physics for you. And you think, oh yes, I've got a land impact of 1. You convert it to prim, and then all of a sudden it shoots up to this, right? It shoots up to 3 or possibly 20. Well, 20 is badly done anyway, and I'll explain what badly done physics are. But yeah, so we got away with that, right? It's a little bit hit and miss physics, but always duplicate the item you bring in. Right, so what did I do with this other one? I was lucky there with that one, and I would use it. That's my first attempt. I would always do that that level of physics first. The kind of the naughty physics, although it is still right, it depends on what you're doing. Your other form of physics is literally, which one have I got? Okay, so this is also physics, right? This kind of works, although this can be even more hit and miss because I've left out the face on the bottom, right? And again, you could try it like this, but this is better, right? Now what I'm calling naughty physics, and it depends on what you want to use the item for, is just this. Okay, and you will see this a lot in Second Life, where somebody has just literally taken the mesh, you know, a piece of mesh from the bottom of their model, and they've called this the physics. They've defined this as the physics, and that's what you're looking at here. Now this will almost guarantee, you see it there, right? Now see how it's, you know, it's kind of almost gone to the extremities of the physical mesh. It's kind of you've because I only took the mesh literally from the bottom of the box that's underneath, but Second Life has said, well, actually your physical model is slightly bigger. I'm going to expand it to the edges, which is where we're defining our own on the previous, you know, model, if that makes sense. But I got away with it, right? I got away with it, and it's given me one land impact. And of course, convex hull is just where there's no sort of real physical physics done. Well, I did do physics, but it's kind of wrong, right? Now this, let me explain what badly done physics looks like, because I think this is where a lot of people struggle, right? Badly done physics is when somebody, okay, I've seen this sometimes in Second Life as well. And this will be the last thing I'll talk about. What somebody's done is they've thought, if I edit this, what they've thought of is they won't, well, I'll show you what badly done physics is. So what somebody will do is they'll go, oh, well, that will cover everything, right? And then they'll only leave the top part. So that 20 land impact is just literally an oversized plane on the bottom, so it goes beyond the bounds of actually where the real proper physical mesh is, but I've taken a piece from the top. And it doesn't matter whether you do just a single plane. If you make the physics bigger than the model, right, and I mentioned this in my previous video, you should always make the physics kind of, especially with walls, just very, very slightly smaller than your actual physical mesh, right? I didn't even alter anything on this, and you know, I've got the physics okay. I might have been able to get slightly tidier physics if I just reduced it, but depends on what you're doing. So the 20 land impact is when the physics hasn't been done right. You know, where maybe you've clicked on something that's gone beyond, or you've tried to put a box around something and it's bigger than the physical. You end up with actually something that's even slightly worse than this, right? I mean, this is just a mess. So hopefully that's explained things. I wish somebody had done a video like this when I was learning about physics before, and it took me a long time to try and decipher online tutorials and people's videos and things, because they weren't giving these kind of comparison videos about the different, you know, what physics actually does to your mesh when you bring it in world. And I was ending up with either the first one here, right, which is generally how I ended up doing an awful lot of stuff, and then I would end up with this when I was playing with physics. I would end up with a land impact of, you know, a sort of, we're looking at what, 300% more than Second Life's attempt. And of course this is what you really want, is this one here. Anyway, Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in another video soon.